HR Funk here with my trusty M1 rifle to bring you a video that will hopefully be helpful to some of you who are new to the M1. And this video comes about as a result of something I saw on YouTube a few days ago. The video that I saw was produced by someone who I believe is very knowledgeable of firearms in general and the M1 in particular. Even so, this individual demonstrated over and over again, as in 4 or 5 times, how it's possible to get your thumb stuck between the bolt of the M1 and the chamber as you're in the process of loading it. This is colloquially known as getting the M1 thumb or Garand thumb. And I'm still not sure why that video was produced, other than maybe to show that getting your thumb stuck in there is not disabling or not painful to the point that you can't continue doing what you're doing. But this individual, as I said, did that several times, 4 or 5 times in a row, intentionally, not by accident, to demonstrate, as I said, I guess that he was able to go on and fire the rifle without being prevented from doing so as a result of M1 thumb. I thought maybe what I would do instead of a video like that is demonstrate how to avoid getting M1 thumb in the first place while you're loading your rifle. And I'm going to demonstrate 2 different methods for loading the M1, both of which should successfully prevent you from getting M1 thumb. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the M1, let's start this discussion by explaining that in order to load the rifle, the bolt has to be locked to the rear. If there is no clip in place in the magazine, when you physically retract the bolt just like that, it stays locked to the rear so that the clip can be inserted into the magazine. And this is an N-block 8-round clip for the M1 that slides right into the magazine. And I want to define a couple of terms. This is truly a clip. The magazine is inside the rifle. It's internal. It's not removable. So we're going to be inserting the clip into the magazine as we load the rifle. Now, it is possible, as demonstrated by the video that I mentioned, in the process of loading a clip into the rifle, if you're not careful, you can end up, let's see if I can show it so you can see it, with your thumb stuck between the bolt and the chamber like I have it there. Notice I did not let the bolt snap forward on my thumb, I just eased it up there. If you're in the process of loading and in a hurry and you just jam that down in there with your thumb, it is possible sometimes for the bolt to move forward and capture your thumb in the manner that I just demonstrated. To avoid that, there are a couple of different things that you can do, and I'm going to demonstrate both of these close up so you can get a good look at exactly what I'm doing. And by the way, the techniques that I'm going to show you are pretty well known by shooters of the M1. I'm not going to be teaching you any ancient family secrets that were developed by my great-grandfather when he carried an M1 in World War I and followed Teddy Roosevelt up San Juan Hill. So you may have heard of these, but if you haven't, this is an easy way to keep from getting M1 thumb. And here we go with our loading of the M1. As I said before, the bolt has to be locked to the rear in order to load the rifle. And typically, if you're loading a full clip, it fits down inside the magazine just like this, and you can see the rear of the clip is right in front of where the bolt rests. You don't want to try to move it forward or anything like that. You want it all the way back toward the back. Now notice in this orientation, as I start to push the clip down in place, the clip itself and the ammunition are keeping the bolt from coming forward. But we're going to push the clip all the way down into the magazine to the point where the bolt can come forward, and that's where the problem comes in. The easy way to do this when you're loading a full clip is to put the blade of your hand against the charging handle right here. And you can actually pull back on it just a little bit so there's some backward pressure as you push that clip down into place and it locks in. Now you notice the clip is in place, it's locked, it's not coming out of there, and I'm still holding the bolt back by the charging handle with the blade of my hand. When I release it, sometimes the bolt will come forward, sometimes it won't. A lot of times it doesn't, and you just simply strike the rear of the charging handle with the palm of your hand, and just like that, it chambers around and the rifle's ready to fire. By the way, this is dummy ammunition that I'm using today, so this is not live ammo for the purposes of this demonstration. Also, for any of you that might not know, in order to remove a loaded clip, you pull the charging handle all the way to the rear and hold it just like that. And there is a clip latch here on the side of the receiver. Simply pushing in on that will release the clip and you can take it out. And that works whether there are 7 rounds, as I have right here, or just 1 or 2 rounds. Doesn't matter how many, that's the way to remove a partially fired clip. Now, there are some people who are under the opinion that the M1 will only load and function properly if the top round in the clip is on the right-hand side. Here, I've intentionally loaded that top round on the left-hand side. And really, the only difference this makes is for a right-hand shooter, it's a little bit easier to push down on the top round when it's on the right-hand side than it is on the left-hand side. But as far as loading and functioning, it will work just fine regardless of which side of the clip the top round is on. The other thing that seems to cause some shooters problems is single loading cartridges into the M1. And if you shoot in M1 matches, you know that there are stages where you're required to load just a single cartridge and fire them one at a time. This is also not difficult, and if you push down on the follower right there while you're trying to insert a loaded cartridge, you can potentially end up with M1 thumb. But if you simply put the cartridge on top of the follower, now what I'm going to do is use my middle finger here to pull back slightly on the charging handle. I'm going to push down with my index finger, and that's just simply release the bolt. And when I do that, the bolt actually pushes my finger out of the way. So I don't have to worry about getting my finger stuck in there, and I'll demonstrate that again. So I'm simply dropping the cartridge on top of the follower. Now, it is important to load your M1 like this. Now watch me give myself M1 thumb trying to show you this. Don't try to push it all the way into the chamber like that and then release the bolt, because the M1 has a free-floating firing pin. So when the bolt goes forward with all that inertia and then comes to a stop, that firing pin keeps moving, and that can cause a slam fire. When I was up at the national matches a couple of weeks ago, there was somebody on the line during the M1 match who had a slam fire. I don't know if that's how this individual loaded his rifle, because I was far enough down the line that I couldn't see. But that is one way you can cause that. You want to have your cartridge back here. Once again, I'll demonstrate pulling back slightly, pushing down, and releasing, and it will take that cartridge right into the chamber, pushing your finger out of the way as it goes, and you won't end up with M1 thumb, M1 index finger, or M1 anything else if you load that way for single firing of cartridges. And there you have it, folks. 2 easy ways to avoid M1 thumb or M1 forefinger. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope it was helpful. If you have any questions or comments, as always, make sure you forward those to me. Remember, if you purchase anything from Optics Planet, be sure to use my discount code, which is... And if you use that discount code, it's good for 5% off anything you purchase from Optics Planet. Also remember, warbirdbunker.com is making t-shirts for the channel. If you're interested in getting one of my t-shirts that Nathan designed for me, or any of the others that he offers there, or any of his other gear, go to warbirdbunker.com, and if you use my discount code there, HRFUNK4U, you can get 10% off anything you purchase from warbirdbunker.com. So until next time, folks, good shooting. Bye-bye.